Welcome to episode 56. Happy Friday to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, bodybuilders, fitness enthusiasts. We have a very special guest. We're going to have a little fun today. Today is the day, July 8th. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this. You have seen a lot of the things on Instagram and on Facebook, and you know a little bit about PCA already. You know that they're very large in the international scene, and now they are growing in the national scene in the United States. And we're very fortunate to have this gentleman right here, which is Mr. Ian Harrison, the PCA USA president. Welcome, my friend. Glad to have you.
Matt, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, we're going to have a little fun today, and I've been looking forward to this for a while. I know that we've been kind of talking back and forth. We've been getting the chance to kind of just talk the state of bodybuilding, where it's going, what you guys have created, and what you're building here. I'm very excited to come out to Florida to have just sit in and be a consumer and be involved in one of your shows to see the structure. You guys come highly recommended from athletes all over the country. You know, we have a guy like John Harris, Phil Westcott, Bonnie Westcott. They have been singing your praises, and I'm so glad we got to connect. I'm just kind of curious. You were an athlete, maybe even a former IFBB pro at one point. Tell me a little bit about your journey and how you kind of got into the sport.
First of all, I was born in 1969, so I'm old. But I got involved in bodybuilding through judo. Actually, my father taught judo when I was a young child, and I did judo from a very young age. But I was naturally a skinny kid. Got into training, saw pumping iron, same old, story that you've heard a million times, and started lifting at 15 seriously. By the time I was 17, I had major knee surgery on both knees from squatting too heavy. I was squatting over 600 pounds for reps, which was not very smart of me at 17 years old. Blew both my knees out, and then kind of got a different philosophy on training, and then went on to win the NABBA Junior Mr. Britain when I was 19, the NABBA Junior Mr. Universe when I was 19, and that was all the same year that Dorian Yates turned pro. So I switched federations when I was 20 in 1989. And I went into the EFBB, which is like the NPC in England, or it was, different now. And I went in as a heavyweight, even though I was still a junior, I was still 20. I went in as a heavyweight, won the overall, and got my pro card. That was when there was only one pro card given in the country. So then I took about 3 years off, and I started competing as an IFBB pro in 1993. Went on to compete in the Arnold Classic in 95. The Olympia in 95. I did the Grand Prix Tour in 1995. Did my final show in 1998, which was another Arnold Classic. I did 3 Arnold Classics in total. And then I'll be honest with you, I got very disillusioned with the sport. It was political even then, and I think it's even worse now. And I just got sick to death of putting my body through the diet, and putting my wife and my daughter at the time through the diet, and being grumpy and having nothing to show for it afterwards, even though I probably should have placed higher in some of the shows, not all of the shows, but some of the shows. So I just basically walked away from bodybuilding when I was 28. I retired at 28, and then I went into pro wrestling. I was a pro wrestler for about 5 years, and I had an interesting career in pro wrestling, met a lot of very interesting people like the Road Warriors, Hulk Hogan, Bushwhackers, and a lot of the 80s guys, Jacksaw Jim Duggan, the Nasty Boys. They were all people that I traveled with and wrestled with. And then I think in 2003, I went to 9 funerals of wrestlers. So I decided, okay, time out. I'm done. I'm done with all my craziness. And I just basically settled down and started investing in real estate, actually. I had nothing to do with bodybuilding after 1998. I kind of turned my back on the sport in a way, even though I love bodybuilding. I couldn't have told you I was Mr. Olympia at the time. I had no interest in it. It's kind of like watching your own birthday party. If you're so passionate about something and then you have to retire at a young age, it was hard. But then I got pulled back into bodybuilding in 2016, actually, by Eddie Robinson. Remember Eddie Robinson?
I do.
Eddie Robinson got involved with NABBA, which is the federation that I started competing with in England. And he asked me to be part of the NABBA USA organization. So I went to England in 2016, and nothing ever came of the NABBA thing over here. Eddie never really did much with it. But on that trip, I encountered Ryan Alexander, and I came across the PCA, and I just basically sat back and watched what they were doing, and it fascinated me. I'd never seen a federation operate in such a way. I'd never seen shows be run in such a way. And I traveled to England in 2017 to see the first PCA show, and I walked away from that show scratching my head, wondering why I'd not thought of it. You know, I was kind of frustrated with myself that I'd not thought of these ideas, but yeah, it just, so I fell back in love with bodybuilding, and I loved it so much that I decided to bring the PCA to the USA, because I think athletes like yourself, I think athletes deserve the best. I think athletes have kind of taken advantage of a lot, especially in this country, because it's kind of monopolized. And I just feel that it should be more about the athlete. The athlete should be treated better. They should have more stage time. They should have a chance to earn money, because it's an expensive sport. And, you know, it should be a family thing. It should be a thing that's enjoyable, not just cutthroat. Especially now over the last few years with so many deaths around the sport, you know, it needs to be healthier, honestly, you know, and just you know, because as a father, what father wants the kid to become Mr. Olympia nowadays?
Not very many.
No, not many, right? I mean, it's not many where you're going to go, oh, yeah, go on, son. You know, but years ago when I was starting, it was the opposite. It was like a bodybuilder was the epitome of health and fitness, and that seems to have changed. So I rambled on a little bit there. I apologize, Matt, but I kind of give you a brief outline of me and who I am and what I'm doing with PCA.
Well, Frank White out of Illinois asked, how old did he say he was? So if you want to repeat that just for the audience in the back, go ahead.
I was born in 1969, so that makes me, damn, what is it, 53? 53, yeah. I think.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. And you know what's great about that is, you know, a lot of us live our lives as youngsters. Somebody once said this, and I just saw it yesterday too. Somebody said these 40-year-olds, some of them should have been training like when they were 20, training like they were 40, and that's not the case anymore because they have struggled to get out of bed. They have joints that are, you blew out your knees. You needed to have something more in the sport. I'm kind of curious. You know, we all have these organizations here in the U.S., overseas. They all preach athletes first. They all think we're different, we're unique. This is what we're giving back to the sport. What really makes PCA different? Because I know that I've read up a little bit about you. I've gotten a chance to see some of the things that you are doing, and I'm noticing the subtle differences and also the very glaring differences where you actually practice what you preach. So can you kind of speak to how PCA is different?
I honestly, it kind of disgusts me how much it costs athletes to compete. I think in other feds, I'm not going to point fingers at any particular federation, but most of the federations out there are charging similar yearly memberships. They're charging similar entry fees, and they're just offering different titles or different named shows. The whole idea of what we do is Ryan Alexander did a great thing. Ryan Alexander is the founder of the PCA. And I look up to him tremendously, even though he's a lot younger than me. He's a very smart guy. He's a visionary, actually, in my opinion. But he did like a podcast right at the beginning when I first started it. And he made a statement that I try and echo all the time. He said that there's a misconception in the bodybuilding industry that there's no money in bodybuilding. That's only true if you're an athlete. And that's wrong. That is wrong. And what a lot of these federations do, they generate all their income from the athlete. They charge them entry fees, they charge them membership fees, they charge them silly money for hotels that they have to stay at. They charge them silly money for tanning, they charge them silly money for these photo packages. So everything we do, we try and make it very affordable. So our yearly membership's $50, our entry fee's $50. We do not encourage people to do crossovers because that's just a money-making ploy. We allow one crossover. And they don't even do that internationally. They don't allow any crossovers internationally. We allow one crossover. If an athlete's not quite sure of the class they're going to be in, or let's say they're doing a master's bodybuilding and they want to do an open bodybuilding, we allow one crossover. But I honestly feel that a lot of the federations are they're charging people for 5 or 6, 7 different crossovers, charging them $100, $200 a time. And these athletes are spending thousands of dollars to walk on a stage and maybe get 10 seconds on the stage, which is wrong. In my opinion, as an athlete, that's wrong. So we're trying to make it more affordable. Like I say, our photo packages are $50. Our tanning is the cheapest in the industry. We put our own tanning team together. We try and make it affordable for the athlete. Number two, we don't do a prejudging and night show. So we're not trying to sell your family 2 lots of tickets. It's 1 ticket. And we try and make our tickets affordable. We also make it so that kids 12 and under come in free, because that it's a family thing. I know so many people that have competed and they couldn't afford for the kids to come and watch them, which is wrong. It's, you know, they've put up with the father or the mother all this time. They've seen all the grumpiness. The least they can do is go and see the parents compete on stage. And, you know, we try and make it a fun environment. So if we hear a kid in the audience shouting for the parents, we'll bring them up on stage and get a picture taken with them. You know, we'll involve it. And so there's a lot of things that attracted me to PCA. It's because we actually do care about the athlete. We're actually trying to save the athlete money, and we're trying to put on a really good show, like yourself, with a nice stage, good lighting, and actually put on a show. So now we can sell tickets, and we'll generate our income from ticket sales, not from the athlete. And that's the business model, honestly. That's why I love it so much, because we literally are trying to give back. I do a podcast I've been doing for over a year. We had I'm not going to mention his name, but we had an ex-IFBB pro on who's now running a show in the Vegas area. And he said on the podcast, I'm giving back to the athletes. So I said, what are you giving them? Because if you're doing an NPC show, you're charging them. I know what you're charging them this. I know you're charging them this. I know. So what exactly are you giving back? You're taking. You're not giving back. You know, it's just so that I don't know. Maybe I'm old school. And you know what? I've ruffled an awful lot of feathers since I've been doing this, because I'm calling people out on the BS. I really am. You know, they all hide behind this. I'm giving back to the sport. And no, you're not. You're trying to make a living from the sport. Now, don't get me wrong. Eventually, I would like to try and make money from PCA. I'd like to make a living, but that is not my incentive. Is not that. I've got a comfortable life. I'm not rich, but I've got a comfortable life. I don't need to bring in revenue in from PCA, but I believe in it so much. I believe it will eventually bring revenue in, and all that revenue will go into making it even better. Yep. And that's really what we're trying to do. Like all the countries that are involved in PCA, the ultimate goal is to generate revenue internationally, so we can put into one big pot and eclipse the Olympia eventually. That's the goal. I mean, that's the big picture. So. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned giving back, and, you know, people looked at me crazy when I said, look, I'm going to put some money on the line, and I'm going to find a way to where winners are winners. It doesn't matter if you're affiliated with an organization.
That's why I got in touch with you.
I know. And it was funny because, you know, if you ask somebody that and they say they want to give back, but they're not, it's real simple. You can see right through that. And I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect, because I was like, this is a guy who, number one, is going to grow this grassroots, which means you don't hand out pro cards like water. Yep. You make them earn it. And I know that, you know, we're going to talk about your qualifiers coming up here in just a second. And I thought that was great. I'm going to bring this up, and I know it's kind of hard to see. When I saw a lot of these shows, we were talking, and I know you had a Roswell show I was going to try and scoot out to, but I'll be heading to Florida in July. You have Kentucky, you have New Mexico, you have Florida, you have Maryland. Talk about some of the shows that are upcoming for you that you're excited about or looking forward to from here until the end of the year.
We have the next show is in Maryland, Baltimore. That is on July 17th, Sunday, July 17th. We do shows on different days. We don't always do them on a Saturday or a Sunday, mainly because other feds tend to try and block us and put a show on exactly the same day. It's happened many times. So if we can do it in an area on a Sunday, we'll do it. But I'm excited about Maryland because we've gone. We have a big support system from Exile Fitness, and I know the owner Bob. It's probably one of the best gyms I've ever seen in my entire life. Actually, it's an incredible gym. Have you ever been there?
No, but I plan to.
It's 75,000 square foot. He has a room that I think he has 30 hack squats in there. All different. It's just an incredible gym. I've never seen anything quite like it. In fact, Bob has just bought the original calf raise from Pumping Iron that Arnold was using with the plates on it. It's like just an incredible people, incredible gym, some incredible athletes, and we are strongly affiliated with them. They're our main sponsor. They're supporting us. So we're looking forward to that one. That's also going to be a pro qualifier, and it will be a qualifier for our USA finals in October. After that, we have the Florida Classic in DeLand, Florida. And I haven't just picked these places like off the top of my hat. I mean, you know, I'm sure you know the history of DeLand. DeLand is where Nautilus started. And no one really seems to know that, but it's kind of like it was an old mecca of bodybuilding in a way. There's a lot of history in DeLand. DeLand High School is where the founder of Nautilus actually had Boyako, Sergio Olivier, and Casey Viator there to do his experiments on high intensity training. So that's the reason why I picked DeLand. And we've also found a beautiful venue. We pride ourselves on having actual theatres, not high school, not like, no, I don't mean high school. A lot of high school theatres are really nice. We've got one at high school actually this year, but I don't like it when they do hotel shows in conference rooms and there's a chandelier hanging down over the guy's head. That's unprofessional to me, you know. And you see pro shows like that, and I just think, come on, guys. You're charging these people all this money. You've got plenty of money. You're making a lot of money. At least put some effort into the actual stage and the how it looks, you know. Make it a production, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, as a bodybuilder, what do you have at the end of it? You have pictures. You have images, right? If those images have got a banner behind you with a date on it and 50 sponsors, it dates like that. It's dated in no time. So we know that I guess a lot of my opinions I've formed from Ryan Alexander and a lot of the stuff he's taught me. But I digress. After the DeLand show, we have 2 shows in South Florida in Palm Beach Gardens. And what that is, we've been doing first timers shows this year. They're very, very popular in England. They're probably drawing the biggest number of athletes. And we find it a really good tool to attract new athletes that have never competed before in any federation. It's not just with PCA. If they've stepped on a stage before, they are not a first timer. And we're doing a first timer show in Maryland, and we're doing one in South Florida. And it's literally, we offer every single class that a normal show would offer, but everybody in that show is a first timer. So it levels out the playing field. And then immediately after, because we do a run through show, we don't do a pre-judging and night show, we can actually run 2 shows in one day. Because we can have a show from start to finish with, depending on the number of athletes, but anything from 3 to 5 hours and you're done. The whole thing from start to finish. So we can run 2 shows back to back, no, without a massive problem. They do it in England, and like everything we do, we try and do it very efficiently. But we also try to make sure the athletes get compared. Every athlete in every class gets a 60-second posing routine. So with the bikini and the men's physique, it's called an eye walk. We provide the music. But with bodybuilding and figure, they all go off and they all come back on it. Doesn't matter if they haven't placed in the top 10. They're going to get a free posing routine. We also do a pose down with every single class. So bikini, men's physique, they all do pose downs because that's when we correlate our scores. And then we announce the results, obviously, immediately afterwards. The last show of the year is October 8th in Ocala, Florida. I'm actually going to be in Ocala tomorrow at the Gold Gym in Ocala doing a posing seminar. We do those free all over the country. And that's called The Most Muscular, along with a podcast that I've been doing with John Pierre Fuchs, Phil Williams, Steve Brisbois, and a guy called Jason Naz and Ryan Pataraki for about the last year. In fact, we need to get you on that podcast, Matt. And then we've got the USA Finals on October 29th in Tampa, Florida.
Before you talk about that, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but Sammy Jo's in Florida, and she's very excited about the July Florida show. So if you know Sammy Jo, she is a hoot. She has a great podcast. And I just want to, before you talk about October 29th, I think Tony Cortez, which is Mark Cortez on here, 2 shows in one day absolutely blows his mind. He's a judge, and he's like, whoa. So, okay, go ahead. Proceed. October 29th, you have your U.S. championships, and we'll talk about that here too. Yes, go ahead.
October 29th is the USA Finals, and that's like our nationals, basically. It's like the best of the best. And at the USA Finals, we're going to be selecting Team USA to compete at the World Championships in England on November 20th. So we're going to be not only awarding pro status to any athletes that's exceptional. We don't do it where if you win your class, you get a pro card. we do it on a standard thing. So basically, if we feel that, let's say we might feel 2 athletes in one class have both reached the required standard to compete internationally at a pro level, we will award both athletes pro cards. Another class, you might have a winner, you might have a big lineup, but we may not feel that they are anybody on that stage has reached the required standard to compete as a PCA pro. So, you know, and the standard is high. We've got some incredible athletes. We've had some incredible athletes, and we still do have some incredible athletes. In fact, the first time shows are bringing in some astonishing athletes. I'm really excited about the first timers because there's a lot of people that got scared away either by cost or just by not being in a clique, you know. And that's the whole thing. PCA really is for people that are not in cliques, because I don't like cliques. We judge on what we see, and I don't care if it's your first show or your 50th show. I don't care who sponsors you. I don't care who your coach is. If you're the best on the day, you're going to win. Simple as that. And to me, that's how it should be. It should be a fair sport. But I digress. The USA finals, we're going to award pro stars to any athlete that's of a high enough standard. There'll be 10 grand prize money up for grabs in the pro ranks, and we may even give some in the amateur ranks depending on how many pros we get. And then like I say, we're going to be picking Team USA to travel to England to compete at the World Championships, where we're going to have over 30 countries represented: Korea, South Africa, Australia, every country in Europe, Spain, Germany. We've got Thailand. We've got some really good affiliates across the world, and it's growing. I mean, it's growing every month. We seem to get another country jumping on board. It's exciting, actually. I'm very excited about the whole thing, and I'm proud to be part of it, honestly. And I am trying to take the credit for thinking of all this, because I didn't. You know, I'm not a genius. I'm just an old school bodybuilder that loves the sport and feels like the athletes should be treated better. I think they should have a viable option to what's been the norm, and that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to overthrow anybody. We're not trying to put anybody's nose out of place. We're just trying to give athletes a viable option to what they've had before.
Yep. And, you know, for those of you who just joined us, we are talking with Ian Harrison. He is the PCA USA president, former IFBB pro. And, you know, one of the things I love of what you said about the October 29th show, because I know that that's my show as well. And I'm very excited that you have a level of standard to where somebody just doesn't walk in their first show and by default, they just win their pro card, because there needs to be a standard. And you've made that very clear. You know, for those of you who do want more information, you can follow Ian at either IG at the real Ian Harrison. You can also follow PCA_USA, or you can go PCA_official. And I believe that's correct. It's scrolling across the bottom. The website, of course, as I don't have my glasses on, is official PCAUSA.com. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir. Yes.
Cool. So let's talk about the best bodies. You know, we've traditionally had at our show anywhere between 100 to 175-ish athletes, somewhere in that range. You know, when it comes to the Storm Classic, what are some of the things that you look for criteria-wise when it comes to, and I know we could get into every division, but I don't think that's really the case. I think that, you know, you have very similar, and I would say just divisions are bodybuilding. Do you have wellness? What are some of the things that you look for in bikini and physique and figure and things like that?
We have the basic categories that we offer. We offer bikini, and then we offer a class called trained bikini. Trained bikini is more muscular than bikini, leaner than bikini, a little bit bigger, but not quite figure. We just brought wellness in this year for the first time, which we all know what wellness is. It's basically more leg development than upper body development. Kind of goes against the grain with me from a hardcore bodybuilding point of view, because it's all about balance and symmetry, and that class is not promoting balance, but I understand why it's popular. So we definitely support it. We've had some really good athletes compete in our wellness division, actually. So the wellness criteria is very similar to the wellness criteria in other feds. Then we've got 3 figure classes. Internationally, they have tone figure, athletic figure, and trained figure. We renamed it a little bit for the US market. So we've got tone figure, then we have trained figure, which is the next class up, and then we have women's physique. So basically, the figure class is bigger than trained bikini or bikini, more delt development, more leg development, and a little bit harder conditioning. And then the trained figure is more muscular and even leaner. And then women's physique obviously is the one notch under female bodybuilding. And we're not averse to offering more classes. I mean, we actually brought in a couples category last year, and it proved to be very, very popular. So if people want it, we'll do it. You know, I love the feel good factor. When you get a man and a woman doing a posing routine, they've got good chemistry. It's great to watch. It really is, and the crowd love it. So, you know, we're offering the couples categories, both all our qualifiers and the finals. And if we have enough female bodybuilders wanting a bodybuilding class, as long as we have enough people, enough bodies wanting to do it, we'll offer that class. In men's, we do men's physique, but we do a lot of different poses to most federations. I mean, I know one of my pet peeves, and
Go ahead. I knew it's coming. Here it comes.
Pet peeves is men's physique is a great entry road for a lot of athletes to compete, right? Mm-hmm. In the NPC specifically, I don't know how other federations do it, but in the NPC specifically, the guys get two poses. They walk on stage, they stand from the front, they do like a thing like this, and then they turn to the back and they stand from the back and they walk off stage. That's an insult. That is an absolute insult to all that hard work, all that time in the gym. That is an insult. So what we do 4-quarter turns, right? And we do them in a specific way, but we do 4-quarter turns. And then we do 5 compulsory poses. So we do like a double bicep with hands open, a left-side oblique shot, a rear double bicep, a right-side oblique shot, and an abdominals pose. And to me, that is fairer because I know from when I competed, when I walked out on stage next to Dorian, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Leveron, all those guys, I may have not looked the most impressive when I stood. But once I started to hit a pose, I could stand with most of them very favorably. So I think it's only fair to let athletes actually pose because some athletes look great standing, don't look so great posing. And other athletes look better posing and not so good standing. And I think it levels out the playing field and it allows for the guys that are really putting in a lot of hard work in the gym and dieting hard to really showcase the physique properly when you give them the opportunity to do different poses.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm sorry, it sometimes goes that way when I hit a thing. You know, Sammy said she wants to meet up with you in DeLand, and I think that's great because a lot of the times when you make these connections, and I know we have people watching all over the world. We've got different countries watching. We've got all over the country as far as Florida, as well as California. Sarah loves that. And, you know, she said it best when she said there's something for everybody. We like to do intercostal poses, right? Give the side obliques. Let's talk about conditioning a little bit. There are a lot of times.
That's what you've hit the nail on the head because an oblique shot really shows the detail, really shows that conditioning. You know, some guys might not have the most perfect silhouette, but when they start to pose, it's like, wow, you know, give those athletes a chance to showcase the physique. I mean, you know, the whole thing, Matt, is the reason why I wanted to connect with you is because I see that you're passionate about giving back to the athletes. And I respect the fact that you're putting money in your own pocket to reward these athletes for what they do. And I've seen your stage. You've got a lot of pride in your stage. And that's how it should be. Because there's a lot of show promoters out there in all federations, not just one or the other, that don't put any effort into it. They rely on the fact that it's a show that's sanctioned by a certain federation and they know people are going to come and they're just doing this, they're just taking money. They don't put any effort into the stage. They don't put any effort into putting on a really good production and really treating their athletes really well. I mean, for instance, when I first went to a PCA show, backstage they had a huge table full of donuts, pizza, candy, brownies, you name it. That doesn't cost a lot of money for a show promoter to do that. We do it at every show. We insist on it. We insist that every promoter gives the athletes food. Yep. Because, you know, you don't want chicken and rice on the day of a show. That's the last thing you want to be eating. But
you want pancakes in the morning. That's what you want.
Exactly. And, you know, everything we're trying to do, we're just trying to bring it back down to earth. And I don't even want to use the word give back because I think it's kind of a corny analogy. I just think we're trying to make it more affordable. We're trying, to me, bodybuilding, fitness, bikini, men's physique. It's a working class sport. It's not a rich man's sport. It's a working class sport. And I don't think we should be trying to make all our revenue from the very athletes that are making the show. I think we should, sponsors, ticket sales, live streaming, all those things can generate income. Doesn't have to come out of the athletes' pockets.
So I had a conversation, and if you watched last week's podcast, Mally Ford just said she agrees it's the little things. And she's a pro athlete. She's pro figure. She ended up doing her very first show. I was really honored that, she chose our stage in 2020. 2021, she comes back. She wins pro figure. And, when I think about some of the things that she talked about, we've had discussions kind of offline. And I said, hey, and we even had this on the call. And I said, what, from an athlete's perspective, is really good for you during the show? We talked about a treat table like in 2019 to go buy a couple $100 just worth of Sour Patch Kids, Milky Ways, Reese's Pieces, pizza, cakes, whatever it takes to pump up and get some vascularity. Of course, some people bring vodka bottles and wine bottles. That's fine too. We make it a party backstage. Yeah. The other thing is, how comfortable do you feel backstage? Do you have bean bags? Do you have a place to sit? Can you put your feet up? How good's your pump up room? Think about when you're entering stage left or stage right. Do you know the format? Do they know the format? Do they get to practice Friday night at the athletes meeting to make sure they can run through with the expediters? Do they know what time generally they're supposed to be on? Is the show running on time? Are we communicating with these people? And as we go through, okay, we're going to have an intermission. That's not line them up. To have a seasoned expediting staff, to have trained judges that are objective, and they don't know the person, but they know the criteria. Now we're talking about bodybuilding again, and we're not handpicking people. It's not political. It's not based on who you think looks best. We actually have judges focused. They're not allowed to have phones at the table. Our judges are not allowed to actually have a client in the show. If they're the client,
exactly the same
they
thing.
step out.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, and I think that I want to go back to this with you, Ian, because I really liked what you said. With this, I don't know if we lost sound or not, Tony, but, we're going to see if we're just going to keep going. You can just read lips or it's on the caption. Tell me, just text me if we did. We did family fitness this year, and we have father-son routines. We have mother-daughter. We have kids fitness. We have kids fitness doubles. And I really thought about, how do we make this a family affair? Are the suits okay? Are they not showing anything for bikini girls? Let me ask you this. As we go through bikini, because I know that you have that trained bikini. Do you have trained bikini? Yes, you do have trained bikini and bikini. How do you feel about quarter turns? Because I know it's done in Europe. How do you guys feel about that in the United States? We were kind of talking about that on our judging call last week.
Bikini?
Yeah.
We do 4 quarter turns in all our bikini classes. We do 4 quarter turns in our wellness. We do 4 quarter turns in figure plus 5 compulsory poses. Every single class does quarter turns. 4 of them, not just from the side, one from one side and from the rear. Another one of my pet peeves. I have a few, but and the thing that all these little things attracted me to the PCA. But when the bikini division is a good division, right? When it first came out, we were all like, oh, "What is this?" It kind of freaked people out. But why does a certain federation insist that all the bikini athletes have long hair all the way down to the top of the butt, and they keep it over the back? As in PCA, you've got to take that hair off your back. We want to judge your back. We're judging the whole body. I almost find that degrading to women, the fact that really, what are they judging when they turn to the back?
And some of those girls work hard.
Damn right, they work hard on their upper body too, not just the legs. So I just think we're just trying to make it fair. Honestly, we're trying to make it fair. I think you need certain things to be in line so you can judge athletes similarly. But like the way we do quarter turns, for instance, we don't tell you that you have to do them in a certain way. If you feel like you want to do your quarter turn in a different way, as long as your hips are facing forward, then to the right, then to the rear, then to the other side, that's up to you how you display your physique. I don't like it when certain federations say you have to have it this way and you have to wear this suit. I don't. I think. Excuse me. I think it's almost like doing this and telling the athletes that they've got to do certain things certain ways. Not every quarter turn suits every athlete the same. You might want to twist your body in a different way. You might want to hold your hands in a different way. And I think athletes should have the freedom of doing that.
No, I like that. And Melody says the same thing. Melody is also a pro figure athlete. She's actually won a lot of shows, and she's a world champion. So she agrees that bikini should judge the entire physique. And that's coming from a figure pro, a figure world champion. And I love that you said that, because we've been debating that, and we finally made the decision. We're changing that on our criteria. Just kind of curious. I know that we've talked about, trying to do something collaboratively together. And I'd kind of like to know, for the athletes that might be in a non-sanctioned show, how would one have a path to possibly earning maybe a spot or being invited, going to a PCA show? And if they fit the criteria, they fit the standard, what would that look like? I'm just kind of curious.
Basically, it's like any federation, really. We have qualifiers, all the qualifiers that we spoke about throughout the year. All these are qualifiers, and every single one of those qualifiers qualifies you for the USA finals. The USA finals, we would be basically offering pro status to any athlete that got the high enough standard and a place on Team USA to compete internationally. We also have another show that came up mid-season in West Virginia. That's going to be after our finals on November 12th. So because it's before the World Championships, that will act as a last final potential qualifier for any athlete that wants to get a place on Team USA and compete internationally. So because it's before the Worlds, we would accept any athlete that's of a high enough standard, and we would love to invite them to compete internationally. And that's, I mean, I love what you do, and I think, great minds think alike, fools never differ. Maybe we're fools, maybe we're great minds, I don't know which, but I honestly, I want to surround myself with like-minded people. That's all I want to do. And I want to grow the sport, honestly. It's not just about growing my federation or your show or whatever show. It's about growing the sport. And I honestly feel like the growth of the sport has been hindered by the potential monopolization of things and making it not affordable for a lot of people and not giving the opportunities. It got to the point, and it was like this when I was competing. I wasn't in a clique. I didn't have a famous coach. I wasn't in a clique. I didn't hang out in Venice Beach. I wasn't one of the typical weeder boys, even though I did have a weeder contract. I don't think that's what it should be about. It should be about the people that work hard in the gym, diet their ass off, turn up on the day of a show looking phenomenal. Those are the people that need to be rewarded, not because you've got the right friends or you've got people talking good about you or you've got the right sponsors. It really gets up my back. And our very first pro, he actually lives in Texas now, Brandon Long. He was the first pro card we gave, and that was his first year competing. That was his second show, but he's a world-class physique, and he deserved it. You don't have to. I used to hate the term "you've got to pay your dues." Why? Why do you have to pay your dues? If it was a 100-meter sprint, the fastest man across the line wins the race, right? Simple as that. And that's how it should be in bodybuilding. It shouldn't be about paying any dues. You shouldn't have to pay a due. If you're the best, you should win.
I wish it would be like that. And, because it is a subjective sport, we understand, you've got even the Northeast tuning in now. Mark with Mr. America, the man, kind of likes what we're doing too. And we love what he does. And I know that he has invested time, money, sweat, tears, blood, everything you can think of. And, when I think about shows, we talk about production. And a lot of the times I think we're going to have a meeting of the minds, by the way, just in case you didn't know. And for those of you who are listening and watching, we do like to talk to other organizations and what they're doing that's working and maybe what they'd like to change or adjust or fix. Because here's the deal. When it comes to athletes want to see what we're doing, and they give us feedback so we can in turn serve the athlete. So I think about a meeting of the minds, and we've talked about this in October, where we all get together and maybe have 3 or 4 different promoters from federations, and we talk about what they do and what we like and what athletes don't. When it comes to PCA, you guys are planning on growing bigger in 2023. You're not looking to hit the turbo button. You're looking to do this grassroots, do it organically, do it right. So the foundation is concrete and it's not built on sand or stilts. So as we think about this, by the way, you just got an invite. I don't know if you saw that, but that just came up. Yeah. we all might just go hang out with you, Mark. And you know what? We might bring our families too. So I know that Melody is going to that and competing. And I know that her husband is also a professional athlete. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but I'm going to go back to 2023. Talk about what your plans are for 2023 moving forward for PCA USA.
We already have, one thing I have not done, I have not reached out to people to promote PCA shows. It's kind of been growing organically because the people that see a PCA show or compete in a PCA show are the people that are supporting us. They like what we do, they believe in the product, and they're the people I want promoting shows. I don't want somebody who and we had this at the beginning, the first year we operated here, people that think it's a get rich quick program, because it's not. It's there can be money down the line, but the first year you promote a show, you're probably not going to make a ton of money. And that's, I don't really want people that are just in it for the money, because then they're not in it for the athletes. I really want to grow this organically. Already next year, we've got a show in Texas that we've already got planned. We've got a potential one in New York, potential one in Ohio, and one in Alabama, on top of all the 15 shows that we're already doing this year. And I'm sure before the end of the year is over, we're going to probably get more. Oh, West Virginia, the West Virginia promoters are going to be doing several shows in different areas. So I think we're probably going to be looking at 20 to 25 shows next year. And I'm not trying to add more shows. I want the right people on board that believe in what we do and will promote it and let people know. Because there's been a lot, I'm sure you know about this, that there's been a lot of intimidation tactics been going on since the day we started. Since the very first day we started, the NPC have threatened athletes, they've threatened sponsors. We've announced sponsorship deals with Titan Medical was one of them. And the day after we announced it, some of the top guys in the NPC were on the phone telling Titan Medical they could not sponsor us. They didn't listen. They carried on sponsoring us. But there's a lot of intimidation goes on, and I'm not going to get into a cat fight. I believe in what we do. I believe in everything we do. I believe we're doing it for the right reason, and ultimately we'll get the right people on board to support us. We've got some great sponsors this year. Fortify Nutrition have stood by us. Great company. Epic Health and Fitness, a franchise gym here in Florida. They've sent us a lot of athletes. They're one of our main sponsors this year. We've got Exile Fitness in Baltimore. We've got some really, really good support, and I want to grow it. Like I say, I want to grow it organically, and I want PCA, when we start a show, I want it to stay, and I want it to stay. I don't want to be a flash in the pan. I don't want to offer. I don't want to try and entice people into doing something unless they believe in it. I really do, because I believe in it. And like again, I said to you, Matthew, that's why I reached out to you, because I saw what you were doing, and I believe you're doing it for the right reasons. I really do, and I think there's very few people willing to put the money where their mouth is, in the personal pocket, and put hard work into a show, and that's what the athletes deserve. Honestly, that's what they deserve. So I have nothing but respect for what you're doing, and hopefully we can work together in some way in the future, and offer all of these athletes all different types of opportunities to compete at different levels around the world.
It's great that you say that, because as I think there are organizations out there that are great and they're doing a lot of the right things. There might not be a fit, right, for that athlete who says, I think this organization might work, and they say, I'm looking for something else.
Yeah.
You've kind of offered that, and I got to tell you, where did the genesis of this come from? Because I was so enthralled with your stands that you see out with that PCA shield, and it's got a little sword holder. I mean, who came up with that? Was that you? Was that Ryan? I mean, how did that come about, and why swords? Tell me.
Ryan came up with the original idea, and we modified it. Now, actually, Ryan Alexander, he's got these rock effect. You've probably seen them.
Yep.
Like a rock effect with a PCA on the front, and all the swords go in these styrofoam things. We've just done a different take on it with our overalls, and it's just we're trying to constantly evolve. For instance, we control the manufacture of all our trophies, really to protect what we're doing, so we can't get cut off by a supplier. I mean, that's why we do it. But we also, if we do that, we can also control the quality of it, make sure it's a very high quality. we've just received molds, or they're actually in transit from the UK of the trophies that they use in the UK, and we're going to start producing them here in the States. And it's just, I want to constantly evolve. You know, athletes deserve good trophies. They deserve, you know, swords. They deserve nice, cool stuff, and they deserve really good images. Because you know, you know as well as I do, a lot of the shows nowadays, they charge these athletes a lot of money, and the images from the shows are terrible. The lighting's not right. If the lighting's not right, the photography can't be good. It's as simple as that. I don't care how much you edit it. If the lighting's not right, you can only edit a picture so much. And I just feel like, you know, as an athlete, what do you really have? I know I've posted some videos and some pictures of me when I competed, and from my golden era, from my golden years in competing, all I have now are images. And if I didn't have good images, or I didn't have any images, then what have I got to look back on? You know, but just some glorification in my own mind of what I thought I looked like, you know, which is, you know, so everything we do, we really try and make it top shelf, like very, very high end, from branding, from, you know, everything we do. I mean, silly things like backstage, we have PCA signs for the men's locker rooms, the women's locker rooms, the tanning, not just a piece of paper that says men's locker room on it, you know, yeah. The actual, yeah, it's official. I mean, it looks the part. It should do.
No, I mean, you've hit a lot of things that I think a lot of our audience, and as I see people kind of coming in and out, and, you know, it's funny because Gabor loves swords. He won a sword. And, you know, we were giving away Excalibur swords, which are the ones that are from the Franklin Mint. And these are $1,500 swords. I didn't realize it at the time, but we only, you know, when we bought them, they were only like $700 a piece. And I gave 4 of them away. And all of a sudden, they started shooting through the roof because they don't make them anymore. Yeah. So I kind of want them back. So, Gabor, I want my sword back. I'll give you another one in return. Kind of, no, okay, he won't give it back. I tried. But no, you're right. And in all seriousness, a lot of times it's the little things. And you think about, and now Mally wants a whole collection. There you go. You think about the little things like men's locker room, and you put a PCA and you brand it, right? You put a PCA logo on there. You think about the badges, you know, you think about having security at your shows. You think about the ingress, the egress, the outgress, the things as far as when you go to the show, you can feel at home. You don't feel rushed. You know what's coming. I think the more certainty we can give athletes at shows, the more comfortable and confident they feel in the organization that they're doing right by the athlete. So, you know, I guess in your own kind of deal here, I would like to know, what are some of the markets that you do want to expand on? I know I may or may not have known there was an Ohio show coming up, possibly, as I may have talked to a few people there. I kind of knew about the Texas show. Where would ultimately you like to have shows that you don't have for 2023, maybe in 2024, or maybe somebody's watching this in California or Oregon or Nebraska? Where would some of your markets be where you'd really love to see PCA grow?
Honestly, everywhere. I want to go everywhere. You know, I mean, it's a family affair with me. I mean, me and my son's like the VP. He kind of runs. He's the brains behind the operation. I'm the ugly face behind the operation with the titles and the trophies. He's the brains behind the operation. My wife, we have a good team of helpers, people that put a lot of time in with us. But honestly, I want to see the whole of America. So it's not, I aren't really targeting any specific areas, honestly. I'd like to go to Colorado. That's definitely one. I'd like to get on the other coast or out to California. But again, it's about having the people that really believe in what we're doing in those areas. So I'm more bothered about the people than I am the actual area. You know, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the right people, not really the right area. I think that's kind of backwards way for me to look at it. So I'm open to doing shows anywhere in the US if we have the right people with a passion for the sport that want to do right. And if anybody's interested in running a PCA show or just talking to me about what we do, I would be more than happy to speak to anybody at any time. I love the sport of bodybuilding. You know, I'm a big kid, really. I'm a 53-year-old child. I love bodybuilding. I always will love bodybuilding. I think it's the hardest sport in the world, and I believe that athletes deserve opportunities outside of what they've been offered. And I believe athletes deserve to be treated well, and I don't think they always have been treated well. And that's really, I'm coming at this from an athlete point of view. I'm not a man in a suit. I am a man in a suit now, but I'm mentally, I'm still an athlete. Just like yourself, Matthew. You know, it's like I'm doing it for the right reasons. I firmly believe that. I firmly believe in what we do and what you do, and I think ultimately it will pay dividends, and we'll be able to get a federation that is very well supported by athletes worldwide and gives, you know, at the end of the day, the more support we get, then the more we can offer. It's as simple as that, you know. So if you support shows like yours and shows like ours, that money doesn't go into our pockets and we go and buy a brand new Lamborghini. That money is going to go into the next show and the next show and the next show, and it's all going to be for the betterment of the organization, therefore the betterment of the shows, giving the athletes more opportunities. That's what I want to leave a mark on this sport. You know, I didn't win the Olympia. I failed in my professional career as far as I was concerned because I didn't reach the heights or the goals that I expected of myself. So I want to leave a mark on this sport in a positive way, and this is my way of doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put you on the hot seat as we kind of wind down a little bit. You know, you said you'd rather have the right people in the right place, and I fully 100% agree with that. So if you were to give characteristics of expectations of really what that right person would be, what would some of those things be when it comes to mind? Because I know that, you know, somebody can say the right things, but do they need a track record? Do they do what they say? What kind of a level of integrity do they have? How are they looked at in the sport? Are they viewed as someone who is influential and someone who actually has their head on straight? Or are they the ones who, you know, they all of a sudden show up and you can't find a background about them? I'm kind of curious. What would it take if someone was considering promoting a PCA show? What would you look for in a promoter?
Honestly,
yeah,
it's funny you should ask this, because I've had several people ask me this exact same question. I do not require somebody to have had experience running a show in the past. I do not require someone to have to be considered influential in the sport. What I require is the willingness to work hard and get the word out, knock on doors, talk to people, and generally promote the show locally to the best of their ability. I mean, that is the main thing I'm looking for in a promoter. Unlike some feds, I'm not looking for a chunk of money. I'm not looking for financial investment. I know there was a guy in Illinois approached us about running a show, and he just got off the phone with the NPC. And they actually, I don't know if this is true because it sounded really far-fetched to me, but he said they asked him for $30,000 up front before they even consider him being able to run an NPC qualifier. That blew my mind. What normal guy has 30 grand knocking about and able to just sink it in before you even start with your show expenses? You know what a show costs to run. You know, they're not cheap. But to do that, you're kind of setting somebody up for failure. You know, so we don't require sanction fees. We don't require investment. All I require really is somebody that loves the sport, has knowledge of the sport. Generally speaking, they've either competed or they've been around the sport for a long time. You know, they're not brand new to the sport, but the willingness to go out there and market and to let people know, knock on doors, talk to people, approach people in gyms that have great physique that might have never competed before, and just be social, really. I mean, that's really what promoting is. It's just, you know, you've got me on your podcast. You're obviously a very good promoter because you'll talk to anybody and you're very personable. And that's, to me, that's what a promoter should be, you know.
You know, there was somebody that chimed in, Chris Proctor in the UK. He's from Europe. And, you know, a lot of things that he says is very true. It says, good luck on trying to find the right people. They're hard to come by these days. This is not somebody you can have one conversation with and say, yep, you're the guy. And then just all of a sudden give them, you know, free reins or the keys to the castle. You know, he says there's so many fake people in this sport say one thing, but they do totally the opposite. And him and I have conversations about this specifically because I believe that he has the same passion and drive to do that for his shows that he promotes. And he is someone who's very influential, not only in just the UK, but he's helped develop Italy. He's helped develop Germany. We talk about the Netherlands. You go all the way even to Australia. And those are those people who have that reach. And you know what? When they say something, they do it. And Mally, I think that I agree with you because I love for this to be interactive. she says grassroots. We take it back to athletes and we find the people, it's crazy because I think that some promoters these days, and maybe you can relate to this, Ian, as you've seen this sport for a very long time. I think there are certain promoters who think if they put a couple things out on social media, and because their name's on it, they did their due diligence, they did their work, they're going to have millions of athletes flow in, and it's going to be an amazing show. To me, the most stressful part, number one, is actually working for an entire year in most cases for 52 weeks for that one day for the athletes to shine. Yeah. And that's not the day I take the day off of the show. That's the time where I'm running around backstage making sure that things are good. Got on a walkie-talkie. We're making sure that expediters are good with the judges. The judges know the tempo. If there's any delays or any hiccups, we've got it. We got the front taken care of. We got backstage security taken care of. We've got tanning on the way. We've got hair and makeup. The girls are ready when we call their class or division. It's all these little things. And so, I would agree with you, Mark. It's all day, every day, dedication, no matter what. So if I were to ask you this, Ian, and Mark, you can probably agree with this, and Chris, you probably can too, because now we have this as a worldwide podcast. I would do this for free. I would run a show.
I have
to spend $70,000. I honestly would spend $70,000 on a show and run it for free. If I could get the majority of those folks to say that was a great event, I would do it again. Yeah. Not everybody will come back. What's your thought? What's your take?
I agree with you. I think kind of bringing in what you just asked me about the promoters and what Chris said about people being flaky or people being two-faced. We've gone through a lot of promoters like that have come in and they said they were doing it for the right reasons, and it's obvious that they weren't doing it for the right reasons. When they realized they weren't going to get rich instantly, or they asked something from me and I wasn't prepared to give them it, then they try and sabotage what you were doing. Actually, they would try and turn around and talk people out of competing with you, and we've had that a lot, and it's very disappointing. It kind of makes you have very little faith in the human race sometimes. But then I have people, athletes that I've competed with us that are now promoters, that truly believe in what we're doing, know what it's like to compete, and are willing to put the work in. Hard working class people basically is one of my pet peeves. Another one of my pet peeves. Is,
Number 4, go ahead.
Arnold Schwarzenegger brought in the Arnold Classic, right? Mm-hmm. But he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Then you had like the other certain other IFBB pros that had the so-and-so Classic named after themselves. I get asked a lot, are you going to do an Ian Harrison Classic? Hell no. It's not happening because it's not about me. It's not about me anymore. It's not about the promoter. And that's the promoter I'm not looking for. The promoter that is wanting to stand at the front of the house with a suit on, shaking people's hands, saying, welcome to my show. Aye, fantastic. That is not the promoter I'm looking for. I'm looking for the promoter that is backstage, putting out fires, making sure everything's running smoothly and everything's taken care of. That's the promoter I'm looking for. And I do believe good people are out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some crappy people mixed in with them. But there's some really good people out there. And like you just want to surround yourself with those good people. And it's going to take a certain amount of, trusting someone and getting that trust broken, and then trusting someone and getting that trust confirmed. And then you keep the good and you get rid of the bad. And that's how we're going to grow. That is why I don't approach I don't approach people to be promoters for us. I never have, and I never will.
Well, just to be clear, this Storm Classic thing came about because overwhelmingly was 86% of the people who voted, and they came up with the name. So by all means, I did not have a professional career that was glamorous or sexy whatsoever.
And it's funny. I never told you this, Matt, but when I used to wrestle, I wrestled as the British Storm.
What?
That was my name when I wrestled, the British Storm. And I was going to mention it to you the first time we spoke, but I want to send you some little videos and some YouTube videos of when I used to wrestle, but I used to wrestle as the British Storm.
Oh, man. Well, what's crazy is this last Storm Classic had Booker T and his professional wrestlers coming in, and we did a cooperative event there, and we also did it at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and that was so much fun. And I have to say, I can't wait to see those snippets. You don't know me, but I'm the kind of guy where if you have a, you know, an address that I know of and a shirt shows up as the British Storm, you never know, Ian. So I'm just saying that's going to be my thank you to you. I'm kind of putting it out there as far as, you know, first of all, being a guest. You know, I do want to kind of close with these few comments because Mark brings up a great point. You know, a lot of people think that we put on, and I love pure bodybuilding shows. For me, expos, I just can't do. I don't like to have every other thing. People have asked, can you do transformation? I'm wanting to be with bodybuilding, physique, figure, the things that got us here. And those are the things that I'm passionate about. And I think that transformation is great. I just think that it's for other shows.
I agree.
And when we say this, people think we are getting rich, and that's not the case. You're exactly right, Mark. We talked about the cost and making the sport. I know how much Mark has put in financially to make his videos and promos. And I don't know if I can talk about this, but the night before the show, what he's going to do is going to blow people's minds. And, you know, when you have TV deals and when we've got live stream and you've got, you know, these things involved, I know Daryl, all need to realize that the athletes are not a commodity, not just a yearly entry fee. And, you know, when you think about something that you care about them, not about the numbers, it doesn't matter if you run a 500-person show or a 5-person show. Make it the best show for the people. And you know what? You run it for them because here's the thing. When you're running it for the athletes, you don't care who's there. You just want to care who's showed up. You know what I mean? And that to me is just everything. I don't know about you, but it's called I'm going to make up a term for those of you who don't know. It's called the show promoter high. When you can actually take a step back from the show and look around and say, you know what? This is all happening and these people are having a great time. And none of it would have been possible if I didn't have this idea in the first place, but they made it happen. Yeah. And to me, that's the ultimate reward when we can, you know, have the wife and kids be there or my kids compete in kids fitness because we have that. And I'm so glad you have couples and you've got bikini and figure. I'm very excited to see for those of you who do compete in non-sanctioned shows or any organizations, I'm going to encourage all of you just to take a look at the site at officialpcausa.com because Ian is growing something amazing. There is no doubt about it. And you know what? There's not very many organizations I endorse. As a matter of fact, you're one of the very few I will have on here because I know what you stand for and I know your level of integrity. So any other last minute thoughts? And, you know, obviously, if you have people that you wanted to shout out as far as any promoters, I know your son, Mac, is somebody who is very close to you in this sport. Any other last minute thoughts that you thought of or anything that you want to say to anybody out?
Oh, I'd like to thank all the promoters that have stuck by us, all the people that have stuck by us. We've got Keith and Tara Wallace in Kentucky. We've got Aaron Smith in Maryland, Michelle Thornhill in Roswell. I'm going to make sure I don't forget anybody here.
Put me on the spot.
the Epic crew, Ryan Unger and Kelly Unger. Henry Machado, who's one of our pros, who's helping us promote the South Florida show. And everybody that helps out with the shows, you know, we've got former athletes, we've got, I've got Steve Brisbar, a former IPB pro, he's one of our judges. I value his opinion, I value his experience. Ryan Pataraki, another IPB pro, that is one of our judges. I've tried to bring the best people on board that know the sport inside and out. I've got a lot of integrity with this. You know, I want to get the judging right. And it's tough, man. Judging's tough because, you know, it's an opinion-based sport, unfortunately, and different people have different opinions, which is why we don't actually have one judge. If there was one correct answer, then I could judge everything, and it'd be fine. You know,
you would need to train your judges, yeah.
Exactly, but you know that's why we have an odd number of judges, either 5 or 7 or 9, and it's a case of putting up. All these people have slightly different opinions on the day, you know, and I just want to get it as right as we possibly can. You're never going to please all the people all the time, but I want to please most of the people most of the time. That's my goal. And like I say, I just want to offer athletes a legitimate option, an affordable option, and somewhere where they can have fun. Because, you know, I took the sport way too serious when I was competing, and I let it dominate my life. I let it, luckily for me, my wife kind of made me see reality when I was 28, and I decided to walk away from the sport and not lose my wife and my children and my family. But I know a lot of guys that didn't make that decision. I know a lot of guys that let it ruin their life. And let's face it, life is way too short. I nearly passed away 18 months ago. I had open heart surgery. I had 6 bypasses, which is why I look so damn old. But I it's given me a whole different perspective on life. When I first started the PCA, it was like a fight. I was going to fight everybody and I was going to come out successful. I don't look at it like that anymore. I look at PCA as something I'm proud of doing, I enjoy doing, and I want other people to enjoy it, you know. I don't like another thing that some feds do is they charge exorbitant fees for coaches, for a coach's pass. They make the coach buy a yearly membership, then they make him buy a coach's pass, and then they have all these coaches backstage, and it ends up being like a high school playground where you've got this group in this corner. We don't do that. We don't allow that. You know, we want athletes backstage so they all talk to each other. We don't want a load of coaches backstage. That's nothing against the coaches, but you know, if you've coached your athlete correctly, the 40 minutes before the show there's nothing to do. There's nothing that needs to be done, and we make sure we have people backstage to help every single athlete touch up, glaze, pump up, whatever they need. We make sure we have got athletes backstage or former athletes backstage that understand the needs of the athletes and are always there to help them out. We want a good environment, want a friendly atmosphere. And thanks again for having me on, Matt. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, Ian, I just want to say thank you for the time. I know this is something that I was excited about. And, you know, we always shoot from the hip on these things. We don't plan these conversations because we want to take it organically to where it's going to serve the audience and also, you know, kind of serve the message. So for those of you who are following, great. For those of you who need to follow or check out official PCAUSA.com, that is their website. Or you can go to PCA_USA at Insta, PCA_official, which is the European site, and also the real Ian Harrison on Instagram as well. I know that we're now friends on Facebook. That is also Ian Harrison. So for those of you who have questions, you have maybe inquiries, and you want to check out a show, we'll bring a crew to Florida. And, you know, I'm more than happy to support you guys and what you're doing. And maybe one day we'll link up and have a little fun and get a chance to actually really celebrate the accomplishments that you guys have had being in the United States. But
and the same with you, we want to support you in everything you do too, Matt. I mean, it's all for the betterment of the sport. We're not just about, you know, the one thing, another one of my pet peeves, and I have quite a few.
There we go.
I don't like it when athletes get threatened by federations that they can only compete in one federation. As an athlete in condition, you've done the hard work. You should be able to compete wherever you want to compete. Simple as that.
You just got a bunch of amens. Like the chat is lighting up. Yeah. I don't know. I'm shocked that everybody has stayed this long because we're a little in bonus time right now. But can you repeat that for the people in the back again? Go ahead.
As an athlete, you've done all the hard work. You've put all the training and diet in, and you should be able to compete in any show you feel fit, whatever federation it is. It shouldn't just be the PCA or the NPC or just your show. They should be able to compete in as many shows as they want and not be penalized or threatened because of it either.
Oh, I just want to say, Mark, we opened up the doors, right? We opened up the doors, and he said, now you did it. And, you know, Daryl, I know that, you know, you do amazing things. And he said, love it. Need to log in more. Great info. Couldn't agree more on the last statement. Nobody owns the athletes. The athlete has done the work. Let them compete where they want to compete. They are not property of any organization. And I love it if my athletes go compete in a non-tested organization like PCA, or they go compete in NPC, or they go compete in a tested show like Mr. America, which we're basically flying up there to support. So, you know, it's crazy. When you find the right people, and yes, we do have a target on our back now. I get it. I totally get it. But I don't mind it because, you know what? I pay my mind.
I've never done as I was told, so I've always had a target on my back.
And you know what? That's exactly right. When you want to do something great, people want to take it down. So I don't mind the target either. And the fact is, when you know you're doing it right, you've got that target on your back.
Yeah.
And I would just say that, you know, to have you on is a pleasure, Ian. I don't think this is the last time you might be on the show. I think we're going to be able to do some recaps. And I'm hoping after October, after you do the U.S. championships, I know that I'll be at my show. You'll be at that show. Hopefully we'll get a chance to recap and maybe build some momentum and talk about the world championships coming up in England in November. So very much excited and appreciate you. And by the way, this is the best way to finish. There you go, Mark. You got that little bullseye. You know, we all got bullseyes on us now, but that's okay because the haters only make us famous. Did I say that out loud? Nobody watches the end anyway, so I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Everybody's going to watch us because they're on pins and needles now. Oh, Daryl's still here too.
You know what, though? It's long overdue. People have walked on eggshells for so long. scared of what they might be judged, you know, or they might be penalized by something. And it's come to a point where they shouldn't be worried about being penalized because there are other options. There are legitimate other options of high standard with great opportunities for athletes. You know, your show's one, some of our shows, you know, it's just that it's a big world out there. You know, one thing that I have noticed, and this is not a criticism of Americans, because I am American now, an American citizen. I love this country. That's why I moved here. That's why I don't live in England anymore. But a lot of American athletes think the world ends at the American border, and it doesn't. There's a big world out there. There's some great athletes in other countries. And to me, if you get an athlete just competing, I had one athlete that I invited to one of our shows a couple of years ago, and he said, I just want to compete against the people I've always competed against in the shows in my own town. So I just messaged him back. I said, then we are not the federation for you.
Yep.
Because I know when I competed and I did the Junior Mr. Universe, one of my biggest accomplishments was winning that Junior Mr. Universe, because I competed against athletes from Spain, Germany, Austria, America. That was a sense of accomplishment to me. Now, not every American wants to do that. We had a lot of athletes that qualified for our universe earlier this year, and a lot of them decided not to go, partially because of COVID, I'm assuming. But a lot of them didn't have passports. So many Americans, and I understand, because it's the best country in the world. You can go to any climate you want by getting in a car. I understand that. But please open your eyes to what's out there, because there really is a whole world out there. You know, I want to take athletes to Thailand. I want to take athletes to Australia. I know I'm in close contact with the Australian PCA, Ayad, who runs that federation. He's going to be bringing Australian athletes to the US. We've got Spanish athletes coming to compete here. At the Kentucky show, we had a lady from England came over and competed. At the Epic show on June 5th, we had 2 French athletes that traveled from France to compete. That, I love that. And you know, athletes should be able to compete wherever they want in multiple federations and make the most. While you're in shape, make the most of it. That's a mistake I made when I competed. I would limit it to one particular show because I had the blinkers on, and I should have taken my blinkers off and realized that you're only in that condition for a certain amount of time. Get on stage and get as many images as you can. And now I'll stop talking. I'm sorry.
No, you hit it right on the head. And you know what? There are people still commenting like crazy. I can't even get to all the comments, but Dr. Farkas, yes, you got to have that passport. And I think that as the world opens back up, I think it's fully open. I think we're going to start to see a little bit of that dynamic shift. We're going to have international athletes. We had our first international athlete just register a few weeks ago, and I think we're going to have a good number next year. So, you know, Ian, not to keep you up, definitely respect your time. Love what you're doing. Can't wait to be involved and see how we can support you all. But with that being said, I want to, first of all, thank everybody for tuning in. This is probably the most fun I've had in a while, talking to someone who really understands the depth of what we do. And what they're trying to build is exactly in line. When you're in alignment with somebody, that makes the sport so much more fun and so enriching to be able to see where we're going. So watch out next year. PCA's coming. And I have to say, I'm very excited about our guest next week. He just competed for his IFBB Pro card. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but you're going to see it coming up. And Ian, I just want to thank you, Mac, Ryan, all of the people at PCA for tuning in. I know that Phil and John and Bonnie and even James is on. All these guys, they absolutely loved it. So until then, we will see you 5:30 next Friday, same time, same place. Take care. Have a great weekend and enjoy.